this feeling which is rolling round in my brain. What can I do to make it all go away? I believe they call this thing fear and anxiety. With me night and day, can't make it go away. Sleepless nights and worry all around. Help me get my feelings back to solid ground. Indigestion, I can't concentrate. When will I ever begin to feel okay? Good morning. This is Village Vic, and you have reached Chapter 4 of the podcast called Rolling Around in My Brain, which are lyrics from my latest song called Anxiety. Now, just to mention again, I am not a professional counselor or a medical professional in any way, so just keep that in mind. If you feel extremely depressed or suicidal, I would encourage you immediately to seek doctor's attention. Okay, today we're going to be talking about abuse. Abuse, be it physical, sexual, or emotional, can cause lifetime anxiety that can completely ruin a person's life. Sexual abuse in children is really a heinous act because children often feel that they can't even talk to anyone about it because they don't think anyone would believe them. Often, we have found that the perpetrators find lonely, withdrawn children to abuse who don't have a strong self-image. The perpetrators are usually people the child knows. We have seen that they have often been non-threatening people, some who've had prominent positions like teachers and pastors. They spot potential victims, befriend them, and eventually use the victims for their own gratifications. Victims often feel they were guilty of doing things to cause the abuse, so they're trapped in their mind. Sometimes they continue the abuse because they feel they have no choice. The perpetrators, the real bad ones, threaten them and their families, so they wallow in fear, anxiety, and guilt. I personally know of such a situation that the victim shared with me about what actually happened to them. The person was very defensive, would not say who the perpetrator was, but they did say that they would only talk to me about it once. I've witnessed this person live in the past for many years. The person has suffered severe emotional disorders that plagued them for their whole life. They've had difficulties making friends and sustaining relationships. It's amazing how large this problem is. It's estimated that 1 of 3 girls by the age of 18 and 1 of 5 boys will experience sexual abuse. Very serious problem, far greater than you would expect. Likewise, physical or emotional abuse, like telling a child they will never amount to anything, or beating them with a strap for minor offenses, creates a feeling of inferiority and uselessness. The child can turn inward, being not very approachable, or go the other way and react aggressively, very hostile, always challenging authority, picking fights, and having difficulty making friends. If you see a child with very poor hygiene, there's a good chance they are victims of abuse. I mean, it really makes sense. If you're constantly being told you are worthless, you believe it, and you don't take care of yourself. which, of course, exacerbates the problem as you'll push people away from you. It's estimated for every case of abuse reported, 2 cases are not reported. Abused and neglected children are 11 times more likely to get involved with criminal activities. So as we see, the problems often start with dysfunctional families that don't give children the support, encouragement, and the love they need to face a harsh world. You don't beat children, abuse them, or demean them without expecting something bad to happen to them. 3.6 million cases of abuse are reported each year. And it's estimated for every case that's reported, there's 2 cases that are not. Of course, abuse is not just in children. Spouses, relatives, caregivers, really almost anybody close to the person can be an abuser. Here's some of the things you might notice which could be signs of abuse. If you see people that seem to always feel ashamed, that's a possibility. If the person's confused about their identity, they feel very angry at themselves and at others. They're always struggling with excessive guilt for even the minor things. They repeat the incidents and say how guilty they are. These people very often are fearful and struggle with trusting others. They seem to be hurting all the time. They feel exhausted. They feel like everyone is looking at them and can see right through them. They have a lot of difficulty dealing with any kind of criticism, and they're very oversensitive. They often experience depression and anxiety. The other thing you notice is they're very indecisive. They can't seem to make a decision. And part of that stems from the fact that they don't trust anybody. Some of the other aspects that you may see is they may withdraw, completely be to themselves, kind of like a loner. Or the other extreme is that they lash out at others all the time. You'll notice that some people become extremely religious. I think you've all seen those type of individuals. It's one thing to have faith, but then it seems like some people, if you see that they take it to an extreme, you have to notice it could be a warning sign. A lot of times these people they struggle with authority problems. They develop medical problems. And sometimes they do attempt suicide or engage in self-harm. They have unhealthy relationship. They actually allow others to take advantage of them. Often take the blame. Accept guilt and responsibility even maybe when they're not really guilty at all. They tend to be perfectionists. They feel an intense compassion for others, over-focused on others' needs, including their families, above their own needs. If you see some of these things, there is a possibility that these people may have experienced some form of abuse in their life. And a lot of it stems from a lack of self-esteem. If you have a low self-esteem, it's difficult to make relationships because you are always looking in the past rather than the future. People have a tendency of not getting close to you because the person seems odd, somewhat distant, and difficult to have normal conversations. The victims are holding a secret inside and they won't share it. It's like a soldier who's returned from a war zone. They've witnessed unimaginable atrocities, but it's just too ugly to share. If you've ever talked to a vet that came back from war, they rarely want to talk about it. Sometimes they themselves have committed atrocities because of the very nature of war. So they keep the secret inside. What a burden. The very thing they need to do is to talk about it with a good counselor. And that's something that they can't do because it's so painful. So they live in the past. You can't live with these kinds of burden and expect to live a normal life. And so we see many vets with post-traumatic stress syndrome living as alcoholics or drug addicts, many on the streets of our big cities. If you suspect anyone who has been abused, you can report it to local authorities. Even if you don't know for sure, they could check it out. So next time, we're going to talk about relationship anxiety. And in the meantime, like I always say, have a stress-free, anxiety-free day, and we'll see you next time. Now I'm ready to take the path to follow. Give me some help to hang on to. I will go on. It may take many months. I'm ready for bumps, ready to jump, oh ready, oh ready, oh ready until I'm free.